Ready? I'd like to call to order the special study session for July 27th. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did the microphone pick me up, or should I restate that?
You can restate that.
Restate that special study session for Wednesday, July 27. Roll call, please.
Mike Aurelio is absent. Brian Blazak.
Present.
Wayne Pondinas.
Present.
Mike Schilling is absent.
He's actually walking
Gerald
down the hallway
Sweats.
now.
Present.
Joe Wizawati.
Present.
David Westland is absent. And Beth Hernandez present.
Mr. Schilling.
And Mr. Schilling arrived at 6:32 p.m.
6:31.
What's a minute?
Huh?
All right. So item number 3 is the review and the discussion of the American Rescue Plan. Joe?
Yeah, thank you. So everyone's got a copy of, and we've had this information already. We're just kind of revisiting this tonight. And this is out on the town's website as well, and we've been getting some comments on that, which is good. It's good to have public input on a lot of this stuff. So Beth and I had met to discuss and kind of prioritize some of the projects, the concepts, the plans for the departments, stuff like that, and just kind of bring some, common sense in how it relates to our budget needs and what we plan on budgeting, what's in the 5-year plans, that kind of thing. So what we took a look at is what was budgeted maybe doesn't necessarily go into the ARPA funding. So we kind of made some recommendations for the council to consider. And we'll just kind of go through this by department. And if there's any questions, you can, the department heads are here to answer any questions you guys might have. So with that said, the police department, what we've got proposed here is priority ranking. The 2 additional squad cars and outfits for $120,000. The 2 portable and mobile radios for the $73.30. The consideration for the police officers, what we would like to do is actually show that within the budget. The same thing with the fire department, with the personnel, is to show that within the budget. So it's actually financially responsible next year and the following year. So that way it's not like after we run out of the ARPA money to fund these, we can't fund the position, and then we have to be in an unfortunate situation where you're going to end up laying off people, and that's really not a good place to be. So I know that the fire department specifically has grant opportunities out there for personnel. I know that the police department historically has grants available for that as well. So we're going to be looking at those avenues in terms of possibly funding those positions, and you guys can comment on that. But just kind of want to go through all of this. So with respect to the fire department, one of the priority funding requests that they made was the structural bunker gear, which that was about $378,000. As was explained at the prior meeting, this is kind of a priority that needs to happen sooner rather than later. So that's definitely a priority ranking for that. The building construction is not so much a priority ranking in terms of what we feel needs to be done over there. Obviously, if there's building that needs to be done, there's other things that we can possibly do with respect to funding those, including doing phase planning and stuff like that. So that's something we can discuss later. The new hire equipment that was requested, obviously that would be a priority ranking. So if we do include that within the budget for 2023 for the new personnel, which we currently are proposing, then that equipment would be included in there. The other priority ranking would be the ballistic vests. for the 10 of the firefighters, and that would be about $15,000 for that. So the next department is the Parks and Recreation Department. We took a look at the 5-year plan and what's currently within the town's budget for Parks and Recs. And one of the things that we noticed that the pickleball courts were included in part of that. However, we felt that it was kind of underfunded. So we thought it would be appropriate to spend the $200,000 versus the $350,000 because we've already got some money in there already. The other thing that we have for consideration is $200,000 for the pavilion that's kind of being proposed at the Gates Park. The pavilion would include a washroom facility, and we're also looking to partner with some of the local trades on that. That's something that'll be coming before the council at some point as well. We'll also be doing some repaving on some pathways, and that funding is included in there as well as a priority project. So the total for the Parks and Rec Department is $440,800 for Parks and Rec. The next topic is for the non-for-profits. So after meeting with Beth and we discussed this, all of these are included within the budget. So it really doesn't make sense to appropriate the funds from ARPA if it's already in the budget. So those are all taken out of consideration for ARPA funding because they're already in the budget. The next projects are the IT, building, planning, and admin. So there's 6 tornado sirens that were proposed. What we've recommended is that we do 2 right now within the ARPA funds and have the electric provided for those as well. That's about $93,600 based on the numbers here. The other item was the police department server. There's currently $25,000 that is that's basically appropriated, yeah, and it's there for that. So we need to check on the specifics for the numbers for that, but there's already $25,000. I don't know what the total cost on that would be. You want to?
The last time I ran a cost analysis for a server was coming in at around $55,000.
Oh, okay. So that could actually come down another 25 maybe or so. So we got 25 that's already appropriated within the budget. So we got another 25 that we can move on. So the other priority item is the building and planning software and hardware. We believe that that is a essential priority for that department to function more efficiently and better. So we definitely think that's a priority that we need to give consideration to. Building and planning, there was two vehicles that were proposed for the ARPA funds. One is actually going to be appropriated within the 2023 budget, so we'll appropriate one vehicle for that. And then there's one for the admin, which would allow clerk treasurer's office, the town manager's office, the ability to utilize the vehicle to go to the county building, the bank, whatever we need to get done. So right now we don't have a pool vehicle. Staff is kind of resorting to taking their own vehicles, which is not a best practice. So we think that's we need to give some consideration to that. If not, we need to maybe do some appropriating in the budget for that. Beth, do you want to weigh in on any of that right now, where we're at? Are we good? Okay. So going on to the Public Works projects, Public Works gets everything. Not really, but we're doing our best. So Lake County came to us with a proposal to expand the Joliet Street Bridge. This would expand it by 1 lane, which would allow for better usage of that property and the roadway, because if at some point the town does want to add an additional lane in there or have additional laning, we have the ability. Once they put that culvert in, it's going to be a heck of a lot more expensive to replace the culvert. So it just makes sense for future growth that we do that now. At $200,000, it's probably a reasonable amount. I did approach a developer that has some property that's adjacent to that, and asked them if they wanted to do an additional lane to have a turn lane within their development, and they decided not to do that at this time. So I guess they're going to wait maybe 60 years or so before they do that. So that's what that's about. The Joliet Street Bridge, as Bob Davis explained, there was an accident involving a vehicle that kind of hit the head wall of that. So we're going to take a look at an alternate funding source for that, for the next year. So we're going to kind of hold off on that one for now. The same thing with the Oakwood Drive stormwater. This is a subdivision that was built in the 60s, and there were no storm sewers put in on that. So we're going to look at an alternate funding source to do that, and possibly some grant money as well. So the other project is the repaving of 93rd from Marquette to Blaine. We want to use these additional funds to do possibly a CCMG grant for 2023. That's going to involve a little bit more of an in-depth construction process, possibly a full-depth reclamation. After talking to engineering, it's probably best we do that right and not just mill it and fill it, because in 2 years it's just going to deteriorate again. So we took that off the table. But the other 93rd project is from Claremont to Marquette. That would be appropriate to have milled down and filled, and then get that done in short order. And we're kind of using some of the resources from the reimbursement from Lake County and Cherville on the 85th project. So that's going to kind of help fund those two projects as well. Public Works is requesting that we have 2 dump trucks. The 2 dump trucks that we do have are pretty old. These would replace the 2 dump trucks. That would be our recommendation to do that. As you know, the town's been talking about a salt barn and acquiring some property specifically for that. Originally, we had plugged in here $250 for the cost, but we've got to consider the cost for acquisition as well. So we increased that to $550. And then, as we said, the 85th Avenue project from Alexander to Lake Hills, that's the full depth reclamation. We have bids on that tonight. I increased that to $750, so hopefully I'm not too far off on that. It was at $688 was the opinion of cost, so we'll wait to see what those bids come in at, but just be aware that we did already increase that for that consideration. The last item on here, Beth and I kind of talked about during our meeting, and it's the CCMG grant match for 2023. So if we include that with that, plus the other projects, that's probably about $700,000. So we're closer to the $1 million for the 2023 project. So when they have that call for projects, we'll have enough money kind of teed up for that. So all in all, that's $4.2 million of recommendations to consider. We're still getting some public input on that. Just to let you know that the next step would be to have the town council approve a plan appropriating the money for the loss of revenue. Very simple resolution. The next step after that would be the public hearing for the appropriation and the ordinance to appropriate the funds. And that's all I have.
Okay. To the board, any questions, comments for either for Joe or for our department heads that are here for the meeting tonight?
Yeah, in the Parks Department, you got to repave the walking paths in Settlers Court. I believe last year,
If we could take out the Settlers Court altogether, it should be just repaving of the pathways.
all right, but there was a contractor, I believe it might be that area, where he took his truck, rather than wheel everything down the hill, because it's a walkout basement, he drove his truck through that. I don't know if there was any damage. Tyler was involved with that. And is that why that we might have to put $40,000 into that?
Like, I'll-
Is that the same area? I'm
I
not sure.
I don't believe so, but I'll definitely have that checked
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Because you don't want a contractor coming in there because he doesn't want to wheel his stuff down a hill.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot easier just to dump it off in the yard that way.
Yeah, and we've got similar problem of people driving their vehicles up over at Heartland Park too, which that needs to stop too. And that, I'll be talking to Bob Davis about that tomorrow.
And then was there any consideration with any of this money to be given to employees? Like a small amount of 500 or 1,000 for working through the COVID times and stuff?
I know that there was.
That would be all employees.
I know there was a proposal for that. Was it a high priority? I don't think so. If that's something that the council wants to do, obviously that's on the table.
Right, I mean, I've got that question asked by other people, and they show me things, and all I can do is bring it to the council.
Yeah, and understand we are in budget time, so we're gonna be talking salary increases too, so, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that was a proposal, don't get me wrong.
Right, and then for Public Works, you had that vac truck.
I did have that on there.
And they
Just-
did look at a vac truck, and there's two more that they're gonna look at.
Yeah,
But that's a kind of a nice thing to look at because ours is somewhat falling apart. It's okay, but I don't know for the last 2 years.
right. But I did put that on there just as a note, so if that's something, again, the council wants to consider, then,
Right, and that was looked at by both the sanitary and the water board,
yeah.
and everybody liked it. They're in favor of it, but they wanted to look at a couple more options in trucks.
So I'm looking at software. It looks like you've got a number for 2023 and a number for 2024. That's on page 2 at the bottom.
Yeah, so this would have been basically a 3-year, Jason, go ahead, you can take that one. Oh, I'm sorry, down there in IT. That was what your original proposal. Because we had the 350,
Yeah.
300, yeah, got it.
It's a phased-in approach. You're going to just pay for the modules that you need at that moment for implementation. So we'll, start with building and planning. We'll get the base modules. Then the next year, we might determine that we need some more modules to increase efficiency. We can bring on Public Works at that time. We can then, bring in the town manager's office. We can add over time.
So those would just be normal budget items then, that we'd have to fit into the normal budget, not using this money.
You could use this money because I believe we have 3 to 4 years to spend it.
Yeah, but
So-
that's not the way this is laid out. Am I correct in that? It's not-
Yeah, we had the initial spending for 2022, so that would be for 2022, 2023, and 2024. So it would be the 3-year process. So it would start this year, effectively.
Okay. Brian, anything? Mike?
No, this seems pretty satisfactory the way it's kind of planned.
Yeah, I appreciate all the departments coming together and bringing us their proposals. Just my understanding of the ARPA money in general is this is a one-shot deal. Once this money is spent, it's gone. It's not continual funding. So my understanding of that would be to be careful. As much as I want to put on, it would be great to put on additional employees, fire, police. I think we need to be careful because once this funding is gone, the money is not continual. So if you put on continual cost, that has to reoccur in year 2, 3, 4, when this money is gone, that money will not be there to continue that. So if you put on additional employees, you'll find yourself in a financial problem. So just to be careful of that.
And that's why we wanted to fit those those requests within the budget. So we should have a stronger handle on that in August, when we kind of get the numbers tighter on that. And if that does become an issue where we're unable to fund those requests within the budget, then obviously that they may come back to you and say, you know, hey, we got to do something. So, or if that's something that the council is serious about doing in terms of adding those staff, you know, if they want to supplement those funds. So that's definitely on the table, and it probably would come up in August, to know where we're at, you know, dollars and cents wise.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see those numbers, because I'm interested in the public safety side of this thing, more so than some of the other things, at least in my feeling. I'd like to see more police, more fire, equip them properly. And this is the opportunity to do that. So, okay, I'd like to be interested to see those budget numbers. Okay, anything else?
That's all I have.
Mike, anything? Wayne, anything else?
Thank you.
Beth, any other comments? No. All right, then we will open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the crowd that would like to, in the audience, to speak on the American Rescue Plan? Yes, sir. Please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
Mark Cohet, on 85th, right before you get to the Lake Hill,
Your address, please. I'm sorry.
7535 West 91st Place, Crown Point, Indiana.
Thank you.
Timber Run.
Okay.
When you're going eastbound on 85th, right before the sign, there's a bump. Can we put a sign up there saying bump or fix it?
It's on 85th.
It's on 85th going eastbound. It's right before, right by Lake Hills Drive. There's a bump. It's only going eastbound.
Okay.
I think later tonight, we're opening up bids to have that repaved, that section, so.
Yeah, what we're going to save
I'm going
we're going to
that
save
far,
the
Mike.
money for the sign and get it repaved.
Okay. How about on Marta Street and 101st, where there's one stop sign? The other two directions going east and west don't have to stop, and I think there's going to be a bad accident there. Can we put two stop signs there to slow down the traffic going east and west?
What intersection is that? 101st and
101st and Marta Street,
Martha
Blaine.
Lane. Okay.
There's a three-way intersection. Can we put a stop sign there for safety?
That's not, is that it? That's, oh.
That'd be county.
I was going to say, that
That's
portion
county?
is not in town, yeah.
Okay. How about, I noticed we had that couple days where we were rationing on water. Why can't we hook up to Lake Michigan where there's a ton of water? Because sooner or later, the well will dry up with all these new housing coming in.
Right. Well, we really weren't rationing water. We were trying to rotate days so that we wouldn't have one big draw, because that's what we had, is we had a big draw of water on one day.
But you have to remember, a lot of people that are just building have sod and they need to water every day.
I understand, and we can handle that. That's not a problem. It's just that when everybody in town decides to water on one day, it just uses a lot of water, so.
Is the well going dry?
No. No, but we can
Okay.
only hold so much water in the tanks, so.
All right, because it always happens every summer. I've been here since 2002. And that.
I understand.
And the water pressure's not too good either.
That's, I would say, going to be individually based on neighborhoods, so make sure if there is a problem, make sure you let us know that.
Okay, we did. Just
Okay.
to let you know.
No, but when it's down and when it's low, that's when you need to let us know.
Okay, we did that one day.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Do you have a water softener?
Yes.
Sometimes it's your water softener, that the filter that the water goes through. If you got a pre-filter, that if that's not been changed, that will slow up the restriction of your water.
No, this is water that is not going through the filter. It's going outside, so it doesn't have nothing to do with the water filter.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else like to speak on the American Rescue Plan funding? All right, then we will close this for public comment, and we will look for a motion to adjourn.